So, Matthew Stafford is available. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. So, over the weekend, it was reported by Tom Pelissero that the LA Rams have given Matthew Stafford permission to seek a trade. Should the Browns throw their hat into the mix? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll go through some pros and cons of potentially landing Stafford and give my thoughts, on the potential move and whether I think it's something the Browns will actually pursue. Also, shout out to Quincy Carrier, who suggested this idea like a whole month ago, long before these reports came out. I know Quincy is good, but bro damn near predicted the future with this one, so shout out to him, man. Certainly a dream guest down the line for me, that's for sure. But first and foremost, let's start with the negatives of trading for Matthew Stafford. He is old. Let's be honest, he is 37. So would you be willing to potentially give up a top 40 pick for maybe just 1 to 2 years of quarterback play? That is certainly a good question. Browns fans have been tormented with dreadfully inconsistent quarterback play for decades. And Stafford can be a fairly streaky quarterback. So I'd certainly expect some growing pains on the field and within the fan base if they were to make this move. He was streaky in his time at Detroit and obviously now in LA as well. When he is hot, he is red hot, top 5 level quarterback hot. But he can have his fair share of off days. Take this past season, for example. The first 6 weeks of last season, he had a worse PFF grade than Deshaun Watson and threw more picks than touchdowns and also took 17 sacks. He did then finish the season from week 7 onwards with 21 touchdowns to just 4 picks, had a PFF rating nearly in the 80s and took less sacks in those 10 games than the first 6. But, you can argue the injuries also played a big role in that. But again, it does show you how, he wasn't consistent the entire season. Stafford is also 1-8 in cold weather games in his career. Not the most encouraging numbers from, for someone that would be coming to play in the frozen hell that is the AFC North. So Stafford is old. He would only be a short-term rental and could possibly cost a top 40 pick. But I'll be honest, I'm struggling to find many more negatives than that. And I don't even think those ones hold, that much weight. I mean, who are we kidding? Stafford would be a clear upgrade over the shit show that, we've had at the quarterback position in Cleveland for decades. I don't really think we're in a position to poke holes in a guy who, even at 37, would probably be better than any quarterback to wear orange and brown since reactivation. Whether you take that as praise of Stafford or an indictment of the Browns, it doesn't really matter. I think Matthew Stafford can still sling it, no doubt about it. Whilst he might be 37 and doesn't quite have the same arm strength as maybe he did 10 years ago, there's still not many better throwers of the football in the NFL. Last season, in 16 games, he threw for 3,762 yards, 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He completed 65.8% of his passes and had a passer rating of 93.7, which was actually his best mark since 2021 when he won the Super Bowl. I mentioned that he started the season poorly over the first few weeks, but was excellent from week 7 onwards, throwing 21 touchdowns to just 4 picks. If you're wondering, how did he throw 21 touchdowns after week 6 if he only threw 20 on the season, this is also including playoffs. He did a great job in getting the Rams back on track last season and led them to the divisional round of the playoffs despite starting the season 1-4. And, losing most of his O-line and weapons to injuries as well. In retrospect, it's actually pretty incredible how the Rams were able to turn their season around last year. They dismantled the 14-win Vikings in the wildcard round, and they actually came the closest to beating the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. Stafford was also great in the playoffs, throwing for over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in those 2 games. Now, of course, it does help having Sean McVay and a great young defense, but Stafford played, an integral role in the Rams' success last season. And if he was to come to Cleveland, he would be playing with, in my opinion, another good young defense and an offensive-minded head coach. The offensive systems are also similar, so it wouldn't, be a hard transition for Stafford. 29% of his dropbacks last season were on play action, and he actually threw 10 touchdowns to 0 picks on play action last year. We've spoke all off season about how the Browns are more than likely going back to a more West Coast play action scheme that they ran previously under Kevin Stefanski. So I think Stafford could, be more than capable than running that system well. You could argue he's the perfect quarterback for Kevin Stefanski and what he likes to do. He's also a proven winner that would provide much needed leadership in the locker room and on the field as well. Something that the Browns haven't had at the quarterback position for a very, very long time. His experience and leadership skills could prove to be invaluable to this team as they try to bounce back from, what was a dreadful 2024 season. And as well, the financial cost would be more than manageable. Any trade likely wouldn't come without a post-June designation, which would result in the Browns taking on about $27 million in 2025 and about $31 million in 2026. Easily workable. If you saw my previous video with Jack Duffin talking about the Browns salary cap, I know there was some audio issues on it, which I do apologise for. But if you were able to get past that, you'd have learned that the Browns salary cap situation is in more than a fine place. So, these numbers are easily workable, and you could just restructure him to spread the cost out anyway if that's what you wanted to do. You could potentially get the Rams to take on some of his 2025 salary as well. Whether that is through a pre-June trade in which the Rams would take on an extra $20 million, leaving just $4 million for the Browns to pay Stafford. But I think what would be more likely would just be the Rams taking on some of the $27 million that the Browns would owe him with a post-June trade. You'd have to give up more if you wanted to make this happen, but I think a second-round pick would probably convince them to pick up, at least some of the bill, maybe even a large quantity of it. So would I personally do it? Would I trade for Matthew Stafford? Yeah. Sign me up, man. I'd 100% make this move, and I'd probably even consider giving up pick 33 to make it happen. Even at 37, I still believe that Stafford is a better quarterback than a Kirk Cousins, a Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, or any other potential free agent quarterback you want to mention for the Browns. I'd probably even argue it's a better option than the wild card that is Sam Darnold. Or even a trade for someone like a Geno Smith. I've personally advocated on this channel for bringing in a veteran as a bridge and drafting a quarterback day 2. I believe this is the best chance for the Browns, that the Browns have at being competitive in 2025 and possibly even going forward as well. I don't think the team needs to tear it all down. I've made this clear, and I've advocated against a full rebuild. I believe that there's talent on this roster, and with top 16 quarterback play, I believe that this team is at least a playoff contender. This move would signal that the Browns are serious about wanting to win now, and I think it would be enough to convince Myles Garrett to change his mind. It would also, I think, invigorate the fan base more than any other potential move that they could make. And provide the clearest path to contention in 2025. So I do think, this is the best realistic option the Browns have at quarterback next year. I really do. Because, of course, I could sit here and say, well, Patrick Mahomes is the best option at quarterback for the Browns, but that's just unrealistic. Out of any realistic possibility, I believe this is probably the best one. If the Browns are in the market for a quarterback to increase their chances of winning now, as I said, I think Matt Stafford probably gives you the best chance. Even if you draft a quarterback at number 2 overall, I'd probably still make this move as a bridge to remain competitive over the next couple of years, whilst you develop whatever guy you draft. Now, of course, just because I think this doesn't mean it's 100% guaranteed to be a slam dunk move. This is the Cleveland Browns after all. It might not work out. Stafford might not even want to come here. And who knows, the Rams did this with Cooper Kupp during the season, yet still kept him. So maybe they don't even plan on trading Stafford at all and instead just wanted to taste what his market would be like for any potential extension. But what I do know is that if the Browns wanted to remain competitive and try to win now in 2025, Matthew Stafford, as I said, is probably the best realistic move they could make at quarterback, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on it. Now all that's left to ask is, would this be something that the Browns would realistically pursue? I think so. Again, I really do. This front office has shown to be more than aggressive in their pursuit to be competitive. I mean, shit, this is the same regime that traded 3 first-round picks and gave $230 million to Deshaun Watson. They aren't shy about taking big swings. As I've mentioned, this probably gives you the best shot you have at being competitive in 2025. The Browns have made it pretty clear that they don't plan on tearing it all down, and they also have a disgruntled Myles Garrett to try and win over. So I think they would 100% make this move if they were given the opportunity to do so, and obviously the cost wasn't too much. The team is in the market for a quarterback, probably multiple. Even if they draft one, they'll still need to bring in a guy to be the bridge, in my opinion. And, I feel pretty confident in saying that the Browns won't find a better bridge than Matthew Stafford. Whether you draft, a QB second overall or in the 4th round, Matt Stafford probably gives you the best chance at being competitive in the short term whilst you develop that guy. As I said, sign me up, man. I'd be fully on board with it, and I'm positive that the Browns would be too. So I expect them to throw their hat into the mix for sure. Will be an interesting few weeks, as we very well could be on Matthew Stafford watch. So keep your eyes peeled. Hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss my reaction to any potential news that does drop. And one last thing, just don't go to the fucking Steelers, man. That's all I'm going to say. But that would do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my content, then please drop this video a like, hit the subscribe button. It's free, but it really, really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can follow and interact with me on social media. I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and as I always say, even if I only get to talk to one Browns fan a day, I'm happy because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have an amazing week, but most importantly, go Browns.